Hello and welcome to the show. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Mercedes E63 AMG that's just been released on Forza 5. This is a bit of an odd looking car, if I'm honest. From the front, I don't know what's going on with the front bumper. It kind of looks like it's trying to pull a silly face, and well, it's succeeding. I don't know, it's a weird looking thing. Also, if you look at it from a kind of like a certain angle, it does kind of remind me of a Vauxhall Insignia. Maybe it's just me. Anybody else see that? I don't know. It's, yeah, not the prettiest of Mercedeses that I've ever seen. When we come further back, yes, there we go. Much better from this angle. It just kind of looks like a normal, large German saloon car. A little bit of an odd looking thing though. When we go inside, there is many a button that I'm not really sure what they all do. There are loads of buttons in this vehicle. They're everywhere. I'm personally not a particular massive fan of that. If you race this car in cockpit view, it does, I don't know, it feels sort of busy in the interior. It feels a little bit claustrophobic almost. Yeah, it's a bit of a straight. Okay, you won't have the camera looking at the steering wheel like you do in Forza Vista, but still, it's a little bit odd. However, none of that really matters, of course, if the car is very fast and very good to drive. When it comes to statistics, it has all the normal AMG craziness. 577 horsepower, 590 torques. To put that into perspective, remember, the car we're talking about here is a four-door saloon car. This car has more power and more torques than an Audi R8 V10, a Ferrari 458 Italia, a Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera, a Nissan GTR, a Mercedes SLS AMG. Yeah, this thing is quite powerful. Of course, it's never going to be as fast as them cars around a track. This isn't designed to do that. However, that is huge amounts of power and huge amounts of torque. That really is for this sort of vehicle. You may be wondering then, how come this car looks so composed through the corners? Normally an AMG car is sideways and there is smoke and you may well be pointing backwards at some point. However, this is all looking very tame. No, I haven't left the assists on. I am, with a certain degree of sadness, I must inform you that this car is four-wheel drive, which is kind of a bit like taking your lovely Aston Martin DB5 and painting it bright pink. You don't do that with an AMG Mercedes. You don't want a four-wheel drive AMG car. It just doesn't quite work. You see, if you were going to buy a sensible four-door saloon car, you buy the normal Mercedes E-Class, or you buy an Audi, or you buy a BMW. You don't buy an AMG. AMG are best known for making things that are somewhat crazy. And this isn't somewhat crazy. The power figures are very impressive, yes. The statistics on the speed as well. 0 to 60, 3.4 seconds. And 0 to 108 seconds. Top speed over 200 miles an hour. Yes, they are all very impressive figures. And this car is very quick in a straight line. The problem is, when you get to the corners, it's just not really exciting. The best way I can describe this car is kind of docile. It's really not that exciting through the corners. Yes, it is a big heavy car, so it's never going to be sort of agile, but it's really not particularly exciting. You've got all of this power and you go out to a corner and put your foot down. Either you'll understeer a bit wide, which you can deal with without any problems, or you'll just get round a corner. You can put your foot down in sort of low speed corners and it'll just go. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to try and talk about this car because I should be saying it's a really good car. It deals with the power very well because it's four-wheel drive. It's a very easy car to drive. The problem is it's not exciting, and that's where AMG are at their best, when they make crazy things that are very exciting to drive. Not particularly safe in the sort of I'll try and throw you off the track way, but yeah, the E-Class, not the most exciting of vehicles. And then you have this. This is a Mercedes C63 AMG. I get really annoyed with all these Mercedes names, so it's going to call it E-Class and this one's going to be called a C-Class, okay? Just to simplify things. This is AMG silliness at its best, really. The C-Class, this is the AMG Black version. Black are basically the slightly mental version of AMG that are the slightly mental version of Mercedes. Okay, so this is a very mental car. It is less powerful and less torque. I think it's got about 60 less horsepower than the E-Class version and over almost 150 torques less. But this is much more fun to drive. It's rear-wheel drive and it's all very oversteery. You don't buy an AMG car to sort of set the fastest lap time around a track. If you're building a car for a certain class, these probably aren't the sort of vehicles you're normally going to go to. They're not, I doubt, going to be at the top of the leaderboards. They're too heavy, really. This one, I think, weighs 3,800 pounds. The E-Class is 4,200. They are quite heavy cars, and yeah, if you're building a race car, you're going to look elsewhere. The reason why you would buy one of these and spend quite a lot of money on one of these is because they are silly, silly fun. And this car is exactly that. You put your foot down and you will go sideways, and it will happily go sideways absolutely everywhere. There is more than enough power to be doing that. This car is certainly not docile. It is not easy to drive. It'll keep you awake all the time, because you really have to sort of think on your feet with this car. Incredibly easy to try and put the power down a little bit too early and get yourself in trouble. Both of these vehicles, I do have to say, have very good brakes considering their size and their weight. They do stop very, very well, which, yeah, that was a bit of a surprise to me. Of course, when you drive a car like this, it is inevitable that at some point you will put that power down just that little bit too soon, and then you will do that, and you will be facing backwards, and there will be smoke, and hopefully there will be nobody behind you to see that you've done a stupid thing. It's very easy to spin this car. You tend to drive this thing on a very fine line between being on the track and being somewhere on the grass. However, that's what I like about it. The fact that you're permanently sort of concentrating. You have to think. You have to pay attention to what the car's doing. And yeah, much more exciting driving this car. You can, if you really, really want to, try and drive this car sensibly. I was supposed to be showing that now, and then I got distracted, and I wasn't. It is possible. If you are very cautious, you can drive this car sensibly-ish. I tend not to. It's just too much fun. It's too tempting to try and drive this car crazily. The only downside, really, to the C-Class is it is quite a lot of money. 210,000 credits is, yeah, quite expensive. I said very, very similar things when it came to the TVR Sagaris, and that is rather less. I think that's only like 60,000 credits. But I really do quite like the C-Class. It is rather crazy. However, it is now time to hand both of these cars over to our tame racing driver and see how they do around a lap of the track. Of course, off the line it is going to be the E-Class. That is the quicker of the two because of its four-wheel driveness. Four-wheel driveness, that's a new thing. As we come up towards the first corner, the E-Class does have a small advantage. The C-Class is running a little bit wide there, almost on the grass on the way in. Again, you'll see the C-Class is just having a little bit of a wobble. It's wanting to oversteer. It's thinking about it's permanently thinking about oversteer, I think the C-Class is. Whereas the E-Class is around a corner. Not much drama going on there. Both of these vehicles, as I said, quite big, quite heavy. Do struggle with some of the tighter corners as they come up towards Hammerhead. They both have their own problems. With this corner, of course, the E-Class is going to be a bit understeer. You're going to be a bit hard to get it turned in. The C-Class is going to want to go sideways on the exit. Stig does a very good job of controlling that. It was the E-Class that was actually sliding a bit more. Wasn't expecting to be saying that. As they come up towards the follow-through, again, both cars can have their problems through here. Both for completely different reasons. Past the tyre wall, both very, very quick. These are not slow cars at all. As they come up towards the second to last corner, the gap hasn't really changed much from the start. However, the C-Class starts to close the gap. It gets a slightly better run through these final couple of corners. And as they round the final turn, it is across the line. And it is very, very close between the two of them. Sorry about the E-Class's replay cutting off there. That's just the final lap. As far as the time goes, it is the C-Class that takes it by the smallest of margins. That's really very, very close. That's a few hundredths of a second in it. I'm actually surprised how close they were. Well, I say it's a surprise. They are fairly similar in PI. I thought the C-Class would be all over the place or be a lot more tricky. But yeah, the C-Class does take it. That's actually not bad times for B-Class cars either. They're over half a second quicker than a Shelby GT500 and almost a second quicker than a Cadillac CTS-V. Given a choice out of the two, and it's fairly obvious what one I'm going to go for is, of course, the C-Class, and I think a lot of people would as well, because this car is just a bit different to a lot of the cars out there. It's absolutely crazy. I wouldn't recommend this car to a beginner, somebody who's just sort of learning to drive without traction control, that sort of thing, because it is not an easy vehicle to drive. However, once you do get the hang of it, once you do start driving clean laps and you're controlling it, there is a certain sense of achievement that goes with that you've driven this crazy thing around a lap of a track without falling off the road or facing backwards. And that's something that's sort of missing when you come to the E-Class. Don't get me wrong, this is not so much a bad car. I think I'm a little bit negative about it because I'm sort of disappointed that it's not the normal craziness that you get from an AMG, especially when you look at the statistics on it. It seems absolutely phenomenal that you can get all of that power and everything out of a four-door car. It's just, I want the craziness back. There are a lot of car manufacturers now are going down the much more sensible, the much more serious route, and AMG have always been there to be the yeah, let's put lots of power and make it go sideways. That's what they're good at, and I don't like the slightly new approach with this car. It is, yeah, it's too sensible, and I just can't really see where it fits in. I can't really see why you would have one. Let's hope that this is the first and only time AMG do something sensible, and let's hope that they have many more crazy cars to come, because if this is the way they're headed, I'm a little bit concerned.